right, everyone, we're going to get started. As you can see on the screen, we have a list of ground rules there. If you could read through those. I want to thank everyone for being here. My name is Erica Green. I'm the Director of Community Services. And I just want to give a little bit of a background on how we got here this evening. About 3 years ago, the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center was closed due to COVID and also because of some roof issues. The city of Calabasas and Agoura Hills were provided grants to replace the roof on the facility. And with that, we are reaching out to the community to provide an open with programs that the community needs and have been identified by the community. And with that, we decided to contract with a consultant to help us do that and really look at our facilities and ensure we're providing the best services and programs for the community. So we contracted with Pros Consulting, and we have Mike Spetz on with us, who's the principal and the project manager. So he will take the lead on most of this presentation, and then we will be able to answer questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Mike to proceed. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Good evening, folks. My name is Mike Spetz. I'm a principal with Pros Consulting. I'm also a recovering Parks and Recreation Director. So I have been on the city's side of the table for a couple of decades prior to becoming a consultant. As Erica said, this is really a study to understand the needs, wants, unmet needs of the community as it relates to recreation. We fully recognize that your community has a lot of options, both within the city from a community services department standpoint, but also nonprofit and private sector, not only in your community, but neighboring communities as well. So it's really about trying to prioritize your community's needs as it relates to, as Erica mentioned, the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center and its reopening at some point here in the near future, but also if there are any opportunities to provide additional programming or different kinds of programming at other Calabasas park and recreation facilities, whether it's the Tennis and Swim Center or De Anza Park or the Senior Center, just to name a few. So as the ground rules state, I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that the microphones and cameras are turned off for the meeting. The project team, and namely Erica, will facilitate any questions and answers that will happen following this brief presentation. And then if you do prefer to provide your questions or comments in writing, please use the Q&A function only. Don't use the chat function. The Q&A function does a really good job of just really allowing us the opportunity to capture your questions and potentially respond to them in writing. So what we kind of wanted to cover tonight was just a real quick introduction of the team, some of the influencing factors, demographic and trend information, our community engagement process, the competition assessment, the project timeline, community center, business plan, program plans, and then of course get to any questions that you may have. I am going to stop my camera just to save us a little bandwidth. And so the team is really tight. It is the City of Calabasas, it is Pros Consulting, and it is ETC Institute. ETC Institute is a firm that we work with regularly to conduct statistically valid surveys on a lot of projects that we conduct across the country. Influencing factors, really wanted to make sure everybody understands that this data comes from the Environmental Systems Research Institute. This information is updated annually and is demographic and trend information that builds upon the latest and greatest census with regards to different demographic factors. So when we think about your community, we not only want to understand what you are today, but where you're going to be in the future. Because when we start to look at programming and understanding the needs of the community, we need to understand how your community is going to change, because demographic factors have a way of influencing recreation and programmatic needs. So you're more or less going to be about the same as you are today. Maybe a few hundred people less, a few hundred people more, but you're going to be somewhere in that 22,500 upwards of about 23,500 people. It does not necessarily equate to any sort of unplanned infill development that may occur. But we know for the most part that your community is not going to grow. In terms of land mass, you don't have the ability to do that. And your zoning is really, really tight in such a way that does not allow rampant growth throughout your community. Household size is important to recognize. You're a little bit larger than the U.S. household as a whole, and the U.S. average household size. And that kind of gives us an understanding that your community is going to be relatively balanced when it comes to age segmentation. You are going to continually get older. And this information kind of gives you an indication that right now, 36% of your population is 55 and older, and that is going to grow to close to 45% in the next 15 years. Your youth population under the age of 18 is going to drop from about 20 to 15% over the next 15 years. So though you do have a large household size or above the US average right now, we expect that to drop as your population ages, and obviously as kids age out of the community, or not age out of the community, but age out of households. In terms of race, we recognize that you are a white alone population and will continue to be that. About 3 out of every 4 people are currently white alone, and 2 out of every 3 people are projected to be white alone in about 15 years. The current U.S. white alone population is 59%. As said, you're at 75% right now. In terms of national trends, we wanted to kind of share with you, kind of different types of information or different types of, shall we say, core program areas. So we wanted to give you an understanding of what's hot nationally from a general sports, fitness, outdoor recreation, but then also how does that translate to your community? Again, a lot of this information comes from the Sport and Fitness Industry Association, as well as the Environmental Systems Research Institute. So as you can see on the screen, the top 5 actual programs in the country right now are basketball, golf, tennis, golf venue. So this is such things as Top Golf, miniature golf, anything that basically is golf related, but is not taking place on an actual golf course. Driving ranges that are isolated from golf courses as well. And then baseball. Soccer kind of falls right behind baseball. And I think it's also important to recognize that there is a significant amount of growth on the pickleball side of the equation. But that number is still in the 7 to 8 million right now. It is growing largely by percentage. However, I will say that since the pandemic, just comparing tennis to pickleball, pickleball has gained probably about twice as many participants, 3.5 to 4 million, whereas tennis since the pandemic has grown by almost 6 million. So just to kind of put the growth of the racket sports, outdoor racket sports into context. In terms of your community, you can see that the United States is the red, the Calabasas is the blue, and for the most part, you're at or above averages as it relates to the amount of people in your community or percentage of people in your community that are playing any given sport. Golf is by far The most participated sport in your community at 12% of your population. And then actually tennis comes in at 6.8 and basketball at 6.6. Golf and tennis are definitely a little bit larger than what we see in terms of the country as a whole. As well as then softball is a little bit less, volleyball is a little bit less, and even basketball is just a hair less. In terms of fitness, the number one most participated activity in the country is walking for fitness, and this is outdoors. This does not include treadmills or even running and jogging. This is why we typically see when we do community-wide needs assessments, why trails often comes up as the number one most requested activity. In fact, if you added up all of the top 5 related to just general sports, it would not equal the number of people in the country that walk for fitness or walk for exercise. Another thing I wanted to point out is yoga is in the top 5. 10 to 15 years ago, yoga was not a mainstream, fitness activity. And then, it's just boomed and grown to the point where it is now the 5th most participated fitness activity in the country. In terms of your community, very, very active. Every one of these activities, from aerobics to jogging and running, Pilates, swimming, walking for exercise, weightlifting, yoga, is all above the national averages, which is indicative of the fact that you're a fit community, you are an affluent community, and you do have access to quite a few opportunities through facilities and programming, both on the public sector as well as the private sector. In terms of outdoor recreation, day hiking is number 1, camping, road biking, fishing, wildlife viewing kind of round out the top 5. And then when we look at your outdoor activity, again, you can see that it's for the most part, you're pretty much above the national averages, with the exception of archery. You're slightly below. Freshwater fishing, you're slightly below, likely because you don't have access to a ton of freshwater fishing lakes and ponds. And then horseback riding is slightly less. But hiking is right up there as number 1. Road biking is number 2. And then if you kind of look back and you compare that to the top 2, most participated activities in the country, you're completely in line with that, with hiking and road biking coming out in the top 2 there. So this is just meant to be a data set. It is not meant to be the end all be all. It's not meant to measure what we would call unmet need, but it's just what people are participating in now. And it's important to recognize that, you have a lot of participation across each one of these kind of core program areas, general sports, fitness, and recreation, or outdoor recreation. So as we look to the future, what we're trying to do is engage as many people as possible. So this is actually our second come one, come all kind of community meeting. So please do not be alarmed at the lower numbers that are participating this evening. We had a come one, come all community meeting at Founders Hall in person on Wednesday, May 30th, and close to 45 people attended that. That was in addition to staff, city staff that were there. We have also spoken with a number of individuals from the Calabasas City Council, Agoura Hills City Council, Park and Recreation Education Commissions, the Agoura Hills, Calabasas JPA board as well. So we have spoken with a number of individuals, and this is, just the start of our, this is really just the start of our community engagement. As mentioned, we have conducted a number of focus groups and the public meetings and key leader and stakeholder meetings, but we're also doing survey work as well. We're going to be doing a SurveyMonkey online survey, which will take place later this summer, early this fall. And a statistically valid survey is currently on the street. I think it's important to recognize that there is a lot of math and algorithms that go into statistically valid surveys. But just to kind of give you a general sense of what that means, we typically are looking at a random sampling of your community that is geographically and demographically balanced. So where people live, where most people live, we expect to receive more surveys. Where people have larger plots of land, you have less densification, we expect to receive fewer surveys. But those demographics that I showed earlier are really important because the survey has to match up with those demographics, age, income, race, ethnicity, and so on and so forth, in order for it to be statistically valid. We are hoping to be able to have statistically valid results here within the next month. This is really going to generate what we would call prioritized needs. There's a lot of different factors that go into this, but again, these are not yours. This is just an example. But from a recreation program perspective, we want to understand what's high priority, medium priority, low priority. And we also want to do that on the active aging, the senior center, senior programming side of the equation as well. Since you have a facility that is dedicated to serving folks 50 and up. So again, there are factors that will go into determining the high, medium, and low, but it basically will be a combination of what's needed, what's most important, but also where there are unmet needs. It's wonderful to know what's needed and important, but if the city or the private sector or the nonprofit sector is meeting that need, then it typically does not mean that the city of Calabasas should look to expand that kind of programming. And likely on the low end of the spectrum, if things show up on the low end, we're going to basically look to those and say those are not businesses that we're going to look to be in or expand those programs in the future. Again, these are just an example of what the summary of results will look like. Again, it is not your results because we are not there yet. So we're also doing a competition and market assessment. This is just a really quick snapshot of the different types of fitness facilities. This is not meant to be the end all be all, but from the Equinox to cycle and strength to Pilates and yoga studios. There are a number of individual locations here. I think in total, close to 45 different fitness facilities just within a 15-minute to 20-minute drive, 15-minute to 15-mile to 20-mile drive of Calabasas. We are doing this for fitness. We are doing this for tennis. We are doing this for community centers. We are doing this for, and we're also doing this for like multi-gen recreation centers, as well as tennis centers and swim centers. So again, we're just trying to get an understanding of not necessarily what the competition is, but what the niche of the city of Calabasas needs to be. And in particular, how that translates to the reopening of the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center. So speaking of, a big major outcome of this is to understand the create an operating business plan. What we're really trying to do is, number one, create some financial sustainability, understanding the program mix. What are the programs and services that are going to be offered in this facility, and how that translates to revenue opportunities as well as expenses. Again, at the end of the day, it's a three-legged stool when we need to find a balance to this so that we're able to create some financial sustainability for the operations of the facility, but also not have it the operations be completely on the backs of the city of Calabasas taxpayers. In terms of business plan components, operating hours assumptions will be a part of that, staffing level assumptions, membership or pass model assumptions, program and service plan, and then, of course, revenue and expenditure projections. We are also going to generate program plans or updated program plans for De Anza Park, the Senior Center, and the swim and tennis center. Again, we're not expecting that there'll be wholesale changes associated with each one of these facilities. But if there is an opportunity to understand what an unmet need is, that works its way into the program and service offerings at any one of these facilities, we certainly want to capture that and put the city in a position to be able to act upon that. All of this will translate into what we call kind of program plans, understanding what the priorities are, and then providing some general direction in terms of expanding and or continuing and implementing. And we'll do this for the Senior Center, and we'll do this for general recreation as well. But specifically, we'll probably add a column for general recreation that says location, such as De Anza Park, or maybe a specific park, or the Swim and Tennis Center, or the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center. So project milestones, we're expecting to have community engagement findings in September. So this is really community need. Operational assumptions for the community center and its reopening in October. A program plan for other facilities in October, and finalizing the study by December. So at this point, we kind of want to open this up to you, to any questions. I do recognize that there are three either questions or comments in the Q&A section. I will stop sharing my screen. I will turn it over to Erica to facilitate the Q&A. So if you do have a question that you would like to ask live, please use the raise your hand function. I believe that is there somewhere. It is under the more category there. Oh, there it is. Raise your hand.
Yes.
So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands, and we'll go from there.
While we wait for that, we could look at the question and answers that we had typed in. One says from Brianna, hi, I'm currently serving dinner and wrangling the kiddos, but I wanted to pop in and say hi. I really hope we can see pickleball at De Anza or another facility soon. My in-laws introduced us to pickleball and we quickly grew to love it. It's something all of us can enjoy, and it's hard to think of another activity that 3 generations, grandparents, parents, and our kids can all enjoy together at the same time. Yeah, so we will be including pickleball at De Anza and also at the community center. So we have it now at the tennis and swim, but we will be expanding that. So we are looking forward to doing that, and I'm hoping that Brianna, you and your family can come and enjoy that. Let's see. Does the frequency of participating in an activity factor into your statistics? This is for you, Mike. For example,
Sure.
If someone only plays tennis once a month and another person played pickleball 3 times a week, would it sure as equal participation for tennis and pickleball?
So the stats that I showed are just very, very high level at this point. But there is to that question. I think it's really a great question, because there is certainly a difference between core participation, in other words, people participating in something frequently, versus somebody who is just casually participating. So the data that I shared this evening was general. It is not necessarily diving into core versus casual. But we will have that breakout as part of the overall analysis, as well as then as we not only the analysis of the trend information, but how that factors into our recommendations as well. So that's a great question and a really astute observation.
And we have a question from Angelo. Hello, I started playing pickleball at the community center 5 years ago. There was a robust pickleball program there. I was hoping the program will return. The pickleballers of Calabasas have been waiting patiently for the reopening. I'm hoping the De Anza Park Sport court will also have pickleball courts soon, as previously voted by the city council, where basketball, pickleball, and roller hockey can be played there. Yes, you are absolutely right. The sport court, I'll give a brief update on that. The reason we've been slightly delayed on the sport court is the city applied for a grant from the Regional Park and Open Space District through LA County to help refurb that sport court, and we cannot go out to bid until there's a executed grant agreement from that agency. We just received that, so we are preparing the council report to go in early August. So once we go there and get approval, we'll be able to start the refurbishment of the sport court and implementing all three sports on that. So thank you for that question. Stephanie Williams asked, can you please give an idea of all of the challenges, timeline with opening the center so we can be realistic about what we will include and when? I can give a brief overview of the timeline. So right now, I believe everyone's aware the roof had issues. We received a grant from the Regional Park and Open Space District of LA County to replace the roof. That's being done. That is on time and on schedule. And we luckily haven't found any issues that the current scope of services won't correct. So that is scheduled to be done sometime in August. The city of Agoura Hills has received a grant from the federal earmark funds from Congressman Liu's office, and that will provide some infrastructure to the facilities such as painting and new gym floors and new flooring and ADA accessible doors. So with that, we are working with Agoura Hills to secure a general contractor and still abide by the federal guidelines, which are pretty strict. So with that, the city of Agoura Hills has elected to contract with a general contractor so they can oversee just one contractor while he oversees subcontractors and makes the reporting process a little bit less cumbersome, which is a great idea. So with that, we are working with them to get a scope of services to put that general contractor out to bid. And that should happen within the next week or so. And hopefully we get someone on and their contract awarded by the Agoura Hills City Council sometime in August and start working on the facility somewhere in September, October, maybe even November, depending on lead times for supply and demand. And we're hoping to open early next year. So that's the timeline for now. So I think that sets us up well for Mike to get as much input as we can, gave us a little extra time. So I believe we will have a very relevant and tangible product that we can implement and make the center as good as it was before, if not better. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see, Katie Morgan, I was frustrated by the survey structure for that reason. Exactly. I play pickleball daily, but had no way to call out that priority in the survey. Sorry, that is a comment, not a question. So I believe they're referring to how we collect the
yeah, so I'll just answer that, and I appreciate the comment. It always makes our survey work better in the future. The long story short, though, is that when you consider all of the different choices that are on the survey, people start to express needs and unmet needs and whether or not things are important. And so they all end up kind of coming together to help prioritize activities. We do not necessarily just utilize the survey information to determine the level of service provision that is provided. Other things such as the data that we shared related to trends, other things such as the Sport and Fitness Industry Association and their difference between casual and core activities. And then lastly, certainly demographics plays a factor into this as well. It is not certainly, I am not going to generalize this and say that it is only seniors that play pickleball, because that is not the case. But when we think about pickleball possibly being played at the Agora Hills Community Center, or Calabasas Community Center, when it does reopen, during the day, during the weekday, during the school year, we certainly expect to see a number of individuals that have an older population trend to it. So again, I appreciate the comment. It certainly helps, but just note that the survey, again, is just one piece of information that we will utilize to help make recommendations to the city in terms of how to program existing facilities in parks, as well as then to provide some visionary recommendations with regards to future amenities as it relates to the park and recreation system.
Great, thank you, Mike. That was all the questions in the question and answer. Does anyone have any further questions? I don't see any hands raised. I don't think so. Well, with that, I guess we have went through all of the presentation and hopefully answered everyone's questions. And we hope to see you at future Park and Recreation Commission meetings or council meetings when we provide updates in the coming weeks. So with that, we will say goodnight unless there's anything else, Mike, that you wanted to add.
No, I appreciate the questions. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you spending time on Monday evening to work with us and listen to what we're doing to help improve services within your community. I do think there might be. Oh, okay. I was just making sure there wasn't any additional questions. Stephanie, you're welcome. Thank you much, folks. Really appreciate this. And as we said, we'll be coming back to the community in September with regards to the findings of all of the community engagement, including the survey results, to give us an understanding of exactly how the program is going to play out at the community center, but where there are opportunities to improve upon what the city is currently offering at the senior center, at Tienza Park, as well as the tennis and swim center.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much. I just want to echo Mike's sentiments, and we appreciate you spending time with us tonight and being so interested in giving feedback and asking questions in regards to programs and services. So we will be in touch soon. So thank you, everyone, and thank you to the staff that are on the call as well.